What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is, if you're watching on YouTube, Monday, March 21st. If you are listening to the podcast, actually, I guess it's probably Monday, maybe Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember how Debo releases these. We have so many freaking podcasts at this point. Mock Monday. It's a mock Monday. You can hear the grumpy sound of Ryan Wilson as he hits the stretch run. Tired of doing HQ, tired of doing mock drafts, tired of doing this podcast. Tired having done 450 mock drafts this year already. Tired of blowing them all up because of free agency, right?
Yeah, this is the time of year where, like, I did a 3-round mock draft the day that free agency started, and that mock draft had a lifespan of about 45 minutes.
That was probably ill-conceived editorial decision.
It was my fault because I was supposed to do 3-rounder right coming off the combine. I was like, I just got back Sunday night or whatever. I got back from India. I was like, I'll just push it back a week. I knew what was going to happen, but I also knew that I was going to be doing a bunch of multi-round mock drafts for the duration. So it was fine. It was a I wouldn't say fun way to start. It's a way to start. And this week I did a 2-round mock draft that came out Monday, hours before doing this podcast. And our great NFL editor, Brett, texted me or on a little Slack machine, said, "Hey, do you want to keep a wide receiver going to the Titans?" Because the Titans, of course, traded for Robert Woods over the weekend. And I said, "Yeah, I ain't changed
it." Yeah, it's like you just
Robert Woods is coming off an ACL. We'll talk about all that in terms of the first round picks. So
Titans can absolutely still take a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's right. I need offensive line help and all that. I get it, but I was like, I'll stick with the wide receiver.
Leave if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, smash the like button, hit subscribe. You get alerts. You needed the alerts for the Deshaun Watson trade and the Devontae Adams trade last week. They were helpful. I'm sure there'll be more stuff going down. Who knows what will happen between now and the next few weeks. Well,
next few minutes.
Yeah, could be anything.
I'm going to predict Matt Ryan gets traded to the Colts. That's my bold prediction for this.
I was going to suggest the same thing, but I was worried it would be dated by the time this.
It could very well could be.
Yeah. Well, if that happens, it'll be around 4. It'll be before 4:30 on Monday, so we'll see. Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, leave a 5-star review on Apple, and you can add a question for a future mailbag, and we will answer it. We do a live chat Friday at 1 p.m. mailbag, and we'll be live on YouTube every day at 1 p.m. for the foreseeable eternity.
What time?
1 p.m. Eastern.
I think Debo makes fun of me because I give him a hard time about Carson Wentz. I think he was legitimately angry when I keep asking what time the podcast. Yeah,
he's like, no, he's fine. It's just 1 p.m. It was 4 p.m. last week for free agency purposes.
For now and forever, dummy. Yeah. 1 p.m.
If take your lunch break at 1 p.m. and come hang out with us. Crack.
By the way, worth noting, I don't think you have to say any more promos for it because I don't think you can, but the Pick Six podcast bracket.
Yeah.
I didn't see your name or Breach's name in there. I'm going to call you guys up. Did you?
Oh, I'm probably dead last. I'm dead last in almost every bracket.
I can provide a little update. Brinson was 254 at last check.
Where's Breach?
Breach was 247.
Breach. You know where Debo is? Did you see that in Slack, Brinson?
5th, I think, right?
He is 5th. So he is definitely cooking the book.
The entire weekend until late night Auburn last night, I was number 1.
Dang. Wow.
Our guy Dominic, who's always in on the chats, he's number 2.
Oh, there you go. The only 2 teams I care about right now are UCLA and Miami of Florida because I have them in a Calcutta. If they keep advancing, it's profitable. It's like an auction where you put all the teams up for bid and you purchase teams, and then you get paid based on how far they advance. So like,
okay.
The pot was pretty substantial.
Golly, you and Breach suck because I'm like 180 something, and I
did the Calcutta, and then I had to do golf DFS and I had some work stuff, and it was after like we'd done a bunch of podcasts, and so I was like doing the brackets late, and I just did crazy stuff because I was expecting chaos, and I've like completely missed on all the chaos. I nailed. I don't know. It's a terrible bracket. If UCLA wins, I'll be fine. But that's what
I have watched 0 basketball, so I just pick UNC to beat Baylor, and then that was it. So I got that right.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
We want to welcome a brand new podcast in the CBS Sports family, In Soccer We Trust. Oh, what a name. Covers the beautiful game, or soccer as we like to call it, from a U.S. perspective. Join our host and former U.S. men's national teammates Jimmy Conrad, Charlie Davies, and Heath Pierce as they bring you a mix of expertise and passion on all things soccer in the United States. Download and follow In Soccer We Trust on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, do it. Pumped. I already got 3 episodes out.
You were supposed to follow up on that, I think.
What was I supposed to say?
How much you like the podcast?
The Pick Six podcast?
No, the soccer podcast.
Oh, yeah. No, they're 2 episodes out. I subscribe. I haven't listened to them yet. I'm looking forward to it. Big weekend this week for qualifying. I think it starts the 24th. They have 2 more games to decide whether the U.S. goes to the World Cup. It should happen. We'll see. Fingers crossed. And the only thing I joked about, and like, I don't know. I know Charlie Davies. I met him in Stanford over the football season. I'm sure he thinks I'm crazy because I talked about soccer stuff. So I'm excited about this podcast, but I need to make sure they call out the coach Greg Berhalter because I feel about Greg Berhalter like the Cowboys fans feel this way about Mike McCarthy. Are they done with Mike McCarthy yet?
I don't think they're quite that done.
What's an example of a football team their fan base is done with the coaching staff, even though they're relatively successful?
Panthers and Matt Rule, and
they're not successful though. The national team's sort of successful, but they should be more successful. Not Stefanski and the Browns because they went to the playoffs 2 years ago.
Mike McCarthy in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like on the way out, that's how I feel about the U.S. men's national team coach.
Or like Tom Coughlin and the Giants.
Yeah, but he won 2 Super Bowls. Like Greg Berhalter hasn't won anything. But I think the McCarthy one's good. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Big weekend for U.S. soccer. If that's your bag,
that's your bag. Ooh, well, let's just say turn on alerts. There's a chance we might have to do another podcast.
Turn off alerts.
Turn on alerts.
No, I'm turning mine off. I don't want to know.
Okay, let's get into your mock draft.
Let's
the latest one, and for the first time
one this year.
Yeah, they haven't hit me up about when I'm supposed to do it.
I thought you just saved it for the end now.
No, I think I'm doing one like every 3 weeks. But I told him too, like I don't like just let me start after free agency.
That makes sense. All right, go ahead.
Because up until free agency began and the franchise tag period began, I, like you, would have had Ike Ekwonu or Evan Neal as my number 1 pick for the Jaguars because they desperately need offensive line help. However, given the way that things have gone in terms of Cam Robinson being tagged, they added Brandon Scherf in free agency, and the general Trent Baalke's draft history, and the general buzz you hear around the league. Ignore the betting markets; they're reactive. But Aiden Hutchinson is the heavy favorite. You, for the first time, I believe in quite some time, have Aiden Hutchinson going number 1 overall to the Jaguars.
You know, it's funny. I looked it up. It does feel like it's been like 3 months. The last time I had Aiden Hutchinson going first overall was January 31st. So
wow.
Like right at the end, just before the Super Bowl. So it feels like a lot has transpired in that time.
Well, Aiden Hutchinson he was spiking his value at, he had that monster game against Ohio State. And it just feels that this is the way that the Jaguars are leaning.
Well, yeah, right. So given all they've done in free agency with Brandon Scherf and brought back Cam Robinson, and it makes you think that perhaps they think they can handle the offensive line through pre-draft maneuverings. Did you put any money down on Ike or Evan Neal being first overall?
I have Ike, Evan Neal, and Aiden Hutchinson money down, all at plus money.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, like, as long as it's one of those 3 guys, I should profit.
Yeah, okay. I don't I mean, granted, we still have a month, 6 weeks till the actual draft. I don't know what could happen where that might change one of those 3. And Aiden Hutchinson feels like the front runner right now. But yeah, we'll see. So this will be the 3rd edge rusher in 4 years that goes in the first round for the Jaguars. This plays out. K'Lavon Chaisson hasn't been the first round pick they were hoping for.
Josh Allen has
been. So yeah, Aiden Hutchinson is like the safe pick. And I don't think there's there's very little homework left to do on him. I don't know what it could possibly be. You're not concerned about the off field. You're not concerned about the on field. I've talked before. We talked to him at the combine. If he feels like he's reached his ceiling, because that's one of the Pete Prisco talking points, and he actually got pretty angry about that in a as nice.
That's just a ridiculous question. People ask that about Joey Bosa too. Like no kid coming out of college has hit their ceiling already.
He's like, dude, I'm 21. I was like, look, don't kill the messenger. He's like, I'm going to kill the messenger. But yeah, I like him.
Here's the messenger.
And I think the best news for Aiden Hutchinson is he's going to a program in Jacksonville that no longer has Urban Meyer as the head coach. As we're doing this mock draft, the athletic story came out on Monday morning, which was somehow even more scathing than the previous things we had learned about Urban Meyer on his way out the door. By the way, do you believe that he had to know who Aaron Donald was?
I could believe he didn't.
All right. That's weird.
It's
Does that reflect worse on Shad Khan or on Urban Meyer?
Yes. I mean, Urban Meyer for sure. It's like,
I think Shad Khan.
I think Urban was so in his own. How that is hard to believe.
Here's the thing, and I've said this before on the podcast. Like, once he got fired, I went back and read the Wright Thompson story when he was at Ohio State and all the grinding and how he didn't spend time with his family because he was grinding and the way he treated people because he was grinding. The only difference was he won football games. And you go back and read that story now, which is maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. It all makes perfect sense. The only thing that's changed hasn't been Urban Meyer. It's the fact that he's in a situation where he can't control everything, and the football program went south in a hurry. And what you can do with 18 to 20-year-olds, you can't do with grown men. Even kickers like Josh Lambo, who called him out, and ultimately that story came out and he was fired a short time later. So whatever the math is there, you can connect the dots.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to lock that in. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson minus 400 at Caesars to be the first overall pick. Icky is plus 550. Evan Neal 6-1. Kayvon Thibodeau 13-1. Malik Willis 25-1, which feels a little short. But I guess they're just worried about Charles Cross. The next closest at 50-1. The one name that's not on that list is kind of intriguing. What about Trayvon Walker? Is there any chance that he could be the first player taken?
Trayvon Walker, Dane Brugler is a big Trayvon Walker guy. And Dane Brugler is really good at his job. But even he said in tweets, like he's gotten some, interesting that you have him so high, and some other teams that actually agree with it. I like Trayvon Walker. Like, he's like a top 10 guy for me, 10-ish. He's extremely raw, but the way he plays, like, oh my God, this guy's going to get better at some point for sure. I mean, the old scratching the surface conversation. If he went first overall, that'd be a huge shock. Are those odds on there? I can't even believe that. I would imagine they are.
I've seen him at 30-1 elsewhere. He's not on.
Oh, it should be like 300-1 or something.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, here's the thing. Let me pull up real quick. I was talking to our buddy Vinny Serrato, former Washington GM, who now does radio in Baltimore, and he's heard that the Jets might be interested in 4. So it's not insane. Like, he doesn't love Trayvon Walker as much as some folks, but so 4 is not that far from 1. And
I mean, if you can be a top 5 pick, you can take him first overall. It's just like I would look at it like this if I were the Jaguars. And by the way, just a couple more points to point out that a couple more things to point out about the possibility of Aiden Hutchinson going first overall. 2011 is when Trent Baalke took over as the 49ers GM, and he was there from 2011 to 2016. First draft pick, Alden Smith at 7th overall, a pass rusher. Next year, Eric Reed, 18th overall, a defensive back. Jimmy Ward, 30th overall after that. Eric Armstead, a defensive lineman, 17th overall. And then in his final year, DeForest Buckner, 7th overall. So in, 5 picks? I mean, he basically took a defensive lineman. Like, he loves to take defensive linemen, and it makes a lot of sense for him to potentially take a defensive lineman here. And then all of a sudden you have Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Allen, 2 polished pass rushers, 2 high upside guys who can really get after the quarterback. And then you can rotate in Caleb Von Chason, and that gives you some legitimate pass rush. And I think if you look at how Doug Peterson's teams performed, that 2017 Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, loaded at defensive line. So I don't think it's shocking, the idea that they would take another pass rusher here, even though that's 3 in as you point out, 3 in several years. So just not that crazy of an idea. Okay, moving on. After that, you have Kayvon Thibodeau going number 2. Do you think the Lions? What do you think the chances are the Lions would take Malik Willis here instead?
I don't want to say 0, but I think it's pretty close to 0. I don't know if Thibodeau's going to go 2 either. The thing is, it's so silly. We're at the point in the conversation where we're questioning his desire and all this other stuff. And, I said it here in this little blurb, if you're watching on YouTube or if you read the mock draft, that, I've had scouts say to me, maybe we're just overthinking this thing, but I've also had scouts say, yeah, there's some concerns about how hard you can coach him up. And I don't know. I get it. Maybe it's true. I don't think those are made up stories, but when you watch him play, he seems like he's getting coached up just fine, and he's just dominating people. And it's one of those things that, if the draft were January 15th or whatever, he probably would be the first or second player off the board. He was obviously in the first overall conversation until about October, mid-October to November, when Aiden Hutchinson sort of got on everyone's radar. And I remember saying, I texted a scout back in October, November. I said, is it crazy to think that Aiden Hutchinson might be better than Kayvon Thibodeau? I'm like, no, that's not crazy at all. So I think they're really close. I think the difference is that one's extremely clean in terms of the off-field stuff, and the other one, Kayvon doesn't have off-field issues. It's just a matter of how hard can you coach him or whatever sort of storyline you want to run with.
I hate that. I hate that stuff leading up to the draft. And
it's annoying. No, absolutely.
I mean, I understand it's a real thing, but it's like you think this guy just doesn't care about football? If he didn't care about football, he'd just quit playing football.
But here's the other thing that I'm learning as I go, because this is my 4th draft, and as I sort of talk to more people and whatever, like NFL folks are just as gossipy as we are. So they're texting each other all sorts of things about,
if not more.
If not more, in fact, because they travel together and they see each other at all these stops, whether it's in the fall when you go to schools or whether it's this time of year when you're pro days or the combine or wherever. So they get to chit chatting, and all you need is one Brinson in the bunch to float a bunch of conspiracy theories, and then you're like, maybe that's true. And the next thing you know, JLC or Rap Sheet or whomever is tweeting out stuff, and you're like, oh, is that how we're going?
All right, moving on to number 3. The Houston Texans, who currently have Laramie Tunsil on their roster. You have them taking Ike Ekwonu at number 3 out of NC State, the offensive lineman. Are you projecting a Laramie Tunsil trade, or is this maybe sliding him to right tackle, putting him at guard for early purposes? And then, because I mean, Tunsil is a great player, but he's also, at this point, I think he's a little bit older. Like, I don't know how he fits the guy is only 27. Man.
Yeah, he's young. And there were some conversations he might get traded, I think.
There was a lot of Laramie Tunsil buzz about trading.
But even if he stays there, the Texans sucked last year. Like, sucked. I think they're rolling with Davis Mills. And I said it before. If Davis Mills, I think I said it to you, if it came out in this year's draft class, he'd be the first quarterback taken. And it may not even be that close. And that was part of, like, last year, I sort of wanted him to come back to see what he could do, but good for him. He was 3rd round pick and actually played pretty well when he got the job, and he'll presumably be the guy going forward. Never say never. Do you know how many draft picks, now that the Browns and the Texans have done this Deshaun Watson trade, how many draft picks the Texans have in the first 80 selections?
It's probably something like 6.
5.
Oh, wow. That's
3. 13, 37. So basically 3 first-round picks, 68, and then 80. So, I mean, look, this team sucks. They actually might not be terrible by the time free agency and the draft is over. And in a division where you can win 7 games and maybe have a chance.
I mean, certainly you could make the case that 2 drafts from now, the Texans have a chance to be a legitimate, a legitimately competitive team if Davis Mills works out or if they're able to land somebody else.
And that's the part with Ike. Like, you might as well just beef up the offensive line, give Davis Mills a chance, and then, at least he has an opportunity to throw the football. He's not running for his life every play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends too on like what the Texans internally think their rebuild time is. Are they trying to be competitive in 2 years? Because in that case, I don't think
Cal McNair knows he owns a football team, because that might be the first question.
I think he's probably playing like Fortnite or something right now.
He's playing Fortnite.
You heard that? That's Sage Rosenfeld's story, right? With Derek
He
Carr.
said Cal McNair was playing Fortnite.
Or David Carr David Carr, like, he passes him in the hallway. This is obviously David Carr, like way back, with the Texans.
2002 is
when his dad was still alive, and he's like, I just met with Cal, and he's like, what does Cal do here? He's like, I don't know, man. I went in to meet with him. This is David Carr retelling the story, or Sage Rosenfeld's retelling what David Carr told him, and he's like, I went in to meet with him, and there's this office with no desk. But it's like got a big like couch and then a huge TV hooked up to play video games. A couch in there like banging out like World of Warcraft. I think for the Texans, it needs to be take the best player available.
Well, would you take Kyle Hamilton as safety here over Ike?
I mean, I don't think that's crazy. Given,
I think
it's definitely not crazy with Lovie Smith running the team.
That's a good point. But Ike helps you. I feel like it makes it much more of an impact quicker than Kyle Hamilton, who I love. But that's the thing. You can take anybody here as the Texans because you're terrible and you're going to make your football team better.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you think your timing is for the rebuild and what you want to do with Laramie Tunsil.
Well, again, let's see, it's you, the Titans, the Colts, the Jaguars. The Colts, maybe they get a quarterback that we'll be talking about shortly in the Emergency Podcast.
Yeah.
Right now, they don't have one. The Titans won 12 games last year, so obviously they're the front runner. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're basically the Texans this year. So I think it's pretty wide. I mean, I would imagine Nick Caserio and Lovie Smith they probably think they can win 7 games this year and then try to squeeze out 1 or 2 more.
That's not a That's not an outrageous concept.
They haven't done over-unders yet, right?
Jets. No, we had no over-unders out yet. We don't have the schedule. It comes out of the schedule.
No.
Jets. Sauce Gardner, now the new number one quarterback, or number one cornerback on most boards, above Derek Stingley. Ahmad Gardner is his real name. Sauce, out of Cincinnati, physical kid, long, tall, strong.
Yeah, he's good.
Daniel Jeremiah, who is very tight with Joe Douglas, the Jets GM, has consistently hinted at the idea of the Jets taking a cornerback. I think you're onto something here.
Oh, they have 2 first-round picks. I think they have the 7th one as well.
And I read Peter King on Monday suggested that both the Jets and the Giants would love to trade back with all of their first-round picks.
Yeah, so would every other team in the top 10.
No, but I'm saying, like, let's say there's they want to trade for a future first.
Okay, I wonder who's trading up for. I wonder what people are trading up for. That they're willing to give a first-round pick in the future. Like, there's no quarterback unless it's maybe Malik Willis.
Yeah, could be Malik Willis.
Kenny Pickett's pro day is going on right now as we speak. He's got his hat on backwards. What do you think that means as he goes through the drills?
Well, Mark Cabali tweets out, Carolina GM Scott Fitterer called Kenny Pickett over to him so he can see his hands. He then made him hold the ball for quarterback coach Ben McAdoo. Seemed pleased with what he saw.
So Aditi Kinkhabwala out of NFL Network, or NFL Media, as you like to call them, reported that Kenny Pickett's hand size, which was measured again at his pro day, was somehow bigger than it was at the combine. Went from 8.5 to 8 5/8. So
he did the old. Remember Brandon Allen did that.
How do you make your hands get bigger?
He had somebody massage his hands constantly. He grew like it's like basically like stretching exercises for your hands, constant hand massage to stretch them out. So he ended up with
not stupid for Kenny, stupid that he has to go through that just to.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Get an eighth of an inch or whatever.
DMart42 in the chat points out, or DM Mart, sorry, points out that you could take Neal here. Sauce is there at 7. Neal won't be. That's not a bad point if you're the Jets.
Sure.
Because, with the Jets, you got to remember that they have a.
Well, let me ask you this: Elijah Vera-Tucker, Mekhi Becton, assuming he gets healthy, and Laken Tomlinson. Where are you going to put Evan Neal?
Well, the issue is Mekhi Becton? They've had.
Right.
I mean, there seems to be some
questions
about Mekhi Becton's interest in maintaining his, although he's been tweeting a lot that he's like back in shape. So we'll see. I mean, he's a great player when he's healthy. But yeah, if you believe in Mekhi Becton, then I think you want to go cornerback here. But if for any reason you have a concern about Mekhi Becton, you got to get that left tackle position shored down. And so Evan Neal or Icky, if either one of them fell, might be interesting. All right, moving on to number 5. The Giants actually do take Evan Neal. Not an unreasonable situation for the Giants who, can Evan Neal play guard or start at right tackle? He did. Oh, yeah, he played right tackle at Alabama, right?
Yeah, and he played guard before that.
Okay. Then that's a good pick because they have, I guess, Matt Pert is currently the right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think Matt Pert was a 3rd-round pick back the same year.
Andrew Thomas.
I think it was the same year as Andrew Thomas.
Yes, it was. Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think you can absolutely draft Neal and put him either at guard to shore up the interior, which is kind of a problem, or put him on the right side and go with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. The Giants' biggest flaw for years has been their offensive line. So
and here's the thing: if you're rolling with Daniel Jones, if you're rolling with Zach Wilson, if you're rolling with Davis Mills, you got to protect him at some point. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, Panthers. 6th overall.
What would you do?
I think that they're going to pull the trigger on Kenny Pickett.
Well, our buddy Chris Allen said I can't do that anymore, so no more Kenny. I thought about it. Brinson's buddy from North Carolina, so he's a Panthers fan, asked me not to mock Kenny Pickett to the Panthers.
Shout out Fat Tire.
Hey, how'd you get one of those?
I got tons of New Belgium stuff here.
But anyway, so this is honestly, I don't think I said it all the time. Kenny Pickett to the Panthers at 6 is like taking Daniel Jones to the Giants when he won the 1st round. There's too much expectations, not enough around him, and it's probably gonna be a dumpster fire.
Yeah. I just think the problem is the Panthers have whiffed on. The Panthers have not been able to convince anybody, any quarterback, to even consider coming to Carolina. Like, I mean, they got dunked on in the Deshaun stuff. They got dunked on in the Stafford stuff. Carson Wentz wouldn't waive his no trade clause to go to Carolina. So if you're this, you have to be at the point where you're like, the only way we can get a quarterback is if we draft one. But And so I think they'll be desperate. I think they'll try. I think they'll consider Kenny Pickett or maybe even Malik Willis. But I do think that going Charles Cross is the way to go. Their offensive line is a hot mess. It's a little bit better after free agency. I guess they've kind of brought some bodies in, but man, I mean, you need to improve the offensive line. It's clearly the biggest problem with that team. The problem is the issue is I just could see, as I pointed out, I think the Panthers have a David Tepper problem. Wouldn't be surprised if they took Kenny Pickett there.
All right.
At number 7, the Giants again, and you have them taking Trayvon Walker.
There he is.
Not a bad pick. Perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, he's 275. He can play anywhere along 3-5 technique, whatever you want. He ran the 4.51 or whatever he did, but he's so good. I mean, that whole front 7 is incredibly good. So obviously they played off each other, but he was dominant. Jordan Davis was dominant. Devontae Wyatt was dominant. Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, it goes on and on. So this is sort of in the mold of the Dave Gettleman big guy, but I think he's sort of a upgraded version that he's sort of twitchier and he's gonna get a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go for the upside here because they lost Lorenzo Carter to the Falcons in free agency, and so your pass rushers are kind of non-existent. You got a bunch of big bodies up front. They really do need. I think they'll almost. I think you can kind of pencil them in for an edge player with one of these.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I think it's 7. I don't know if I've had Thibodeau falling this far in the past, but I know in previous mock drafts during the season I had the Giants trading up for Thibodeau like the 4 or something. And I know our buddy Rob Arciera, who's a Giants fan, the producer up in Connecticut, has said more than once he would love to have Thibodeau as a Giants fan.
I think you can take the Giants 2 picks at 5 and 7 and probably just do what you did and just take the best offensive lineman and the best. They could even go 2 pass rushers there. Like that wouldn't even be crazy. Or go Kyle Hamilton at 5 and then Trayvon Walker at 7 and just try and get some pieces.
Giants fans get mad when I take Kyle Hamilton because he's not a fat person. And I get it. They need help. If you go offensive line, defensive line, whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. The final 3 picks of the top 10 we'll go through and then we'll take a break. You have the Falcons taking Kyle Hamilton at 8. The Seahawks going Malik Willis at 9, spicy, and the Jets going Devin Lloyd at 10. Which one of those is your favorite pick out of that group?
Trying to I think actually scroll down, Debo. I'm trying to see what I did here. Oh, Seattle, right? Malik at 9. So I like Malik at 9. I also like Devin Lloyd at 10. I love both those players for different reasons. Obviously, play different positions, but Malik at 9. It sounds like they like Drew Lock, according to some reports we've seen on the Twitter machines in Seattle. So that's great for Malik. He can go there. He can sit. He's a little Russell Wilson in him early in Russell's career. He's not Russell now, of course. Russell is certainly more polished coming out. He played at State, then he played at Wisconsin. Yeah, and even though he ran more as a youngster, he certainly had a better idea of what he was doing in the pocket. I think that's what Malik needs to grow into. But if they like Drew Lock, let Drew Lock play for a year, and then just don't force Malik out there. We'll see what happens. I said it before. Brady Quinn is of the opinion that you draft a quarterback, and of course Pete Prisco feels this way too.
You play him.
They should play, and I don't feel great about that with Malik. Wherever unless he goes somewhere.
I watched him play against State when Liberty came to town in 2020.
Yeah,
I was watching on TV like everybody else, but I mean, he's got tons of upside. I just don't think you can. I think the Seahawks are going to try and do what they did with Russ, which is find somebody in the later rounds who could potentially be a game changer.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen in this draft. You better take Malik here at 9 if you want him.
I guess you're thinking like Sam Howell in the second round. By the way, the 10th pick that the Jets are taking there really underscores just how much the Seahawks screwed up with the Jamal Adams deal.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this on the Falcons real quick. Would a potential hypothetical Matt Ryan trade change what you would do with the Falcons at number 8?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, we have to figure out with Jimmy G and Baker as well. Like, I mean, oh boy, Baker on the Falcons would be hard to watch. Oof.
Yeah, pretty rough. I think the Falcons would. I mean, what do you do if you trade Matt Ryan?
Well, you're trading for the Colts. The Colts don't have a first-round pick, so you get next year's first round. Nah, I don't know. You're not getting next year's first-round pick. Maybe you get their second-round pick this year.
Yeah, I think it'd be a second-round pick.
So
no, I don't even think it's that much.
Okay, yeah. So the Colts have the 42nd pick, and then the Colts have the 73rd pick. 73rd pick?
I think it's a third-round pick at best for.
They have 73, and 82.
I think 82 might get it done because the Falcons are eating a huge cap hit and are going to be much, much worse without Matt Ryan. Like AJ McCarron or Josh Rosen, did they sign AJ McCarron back?
They're the same person.
Josh Rosen might be their. No, AJ McCarron's still a free agent. So
is Felipe Franks on the roster still?
Yes,
they have him. Undrafted.
I mean, you're rolling with Josh Rosen, and Felipe Franks. Like that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean at 9,
maybe they're the team that trades for Jimmy G.
So yeah, he fits it more than Baker. So they have the 43rd pick as well. It's funny you mentioned Sam Howell. Sam Howell, actually, I went back and watched a lot more of his games. He's not my number 2 quarterback. I actually like Sam Howell. I've come around on Sam Howell. I watched the Virginia Tech game in week 1, and I was like, oh my God, this is just a disaster from start to finish. It wasn't entirely his fault, and he actually got a lot better. I like him better than Kenny Pickett, and only quarterback I like better is Matt Corral. So, but at 40, it just depends. At the Falcons are at, where are they? 43. There could be a quarterback there at 43. One of the top 5 guys. And then Desmond Ridder, if you want to throw him in there. I wouldn't take Desmond Ridder that high. But I think if you want to wait till 43, if you don't want to do it at 8, if you're the Falcons, there could be, or even trade up for whether it's a Kenny Pickett or whoever, Malik Willis, Matt Corral. So maybe the option is to trade up into the top of the second round, 10 spots or so, and then get a quarterback there if you want to get something else.
Generally speaking, you don't like the idea of the Falcons taking the QB at 8, even with no Matt Ryan.
I mean, I don't know. I don't. Right. I wouldn't take any of these guys in the top 10 at the quarterback position. So yes.
Yeah, I think Howell later, or somebody if they fall, you could trade back in, makes a lot more sense than going with like it doesn't matter. Like you can't even if you trade Matt Ryan, you're taking such a massive dead cap hit. Like you're not going to be that competitive this year if you end up trading Matt Ryan. So I think I don't like the idea of taking a quarterback at 8 and at 8 unless you think he's just a complete game changer who can start right away for you. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll rip through some of the rest of Wilson's picks in this mock draft. The Commanders, you have passing on a quarterback, and at 11 and going with Garrett Wilson. That makes him the
quarterback. Why would they draft a quarterback?
Because they have Carson Wentz.
Give 2 third-round picks. One's going to turn to a second-round pick.
Yeah. I'm saying. I mean, maybe. They're not going to draft a quarterback.
I don't know if it was Albert Breer or I think it was Albert Breer wrote about in Monday Morning Quarterback that Carson Wentz found out, like the rest of us, on Super Bowl Sunday, that he was no longer going to be a member of the Colts.
Garrett Wilson would be your first wide receiver off the board. I believe he is the favorite. I'm looking. Yeah.
Oh,
he's even money to be the first wide receiver off the board than Drake London at plus 150. Field is plus 350. Treylon Burks is 8-1, which I kind of find interesting.
He ran a 4.55. That didn't help.
Yeah,
he's good though.
Jameson Williams is actually 7.5-1. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, what you think it hurt? He and Garrett would be in the running for first overall, I bet.
Okay. So you have them taking a wide receiver. I think that makes total sense. They need to get more help there. They got to figure out the Terry McLaurin. Are they going to sign him to a long-term deal? And then the Vikings in the post trolling Mike Zimmer at 12 by taking Derek Stingley Jr., which is kind of funny. They definitely need defensive help. And if they haven't brought back Pat P yet, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. If you bring back Pat P and then draft Derek Stingley, like that's kind of some fun upside. Plus you have the LSU connection.
Yeah, but we were talking about this on one of last week's pods where they don't have any cap. I think they'll have $2 million in cap space unless something's changed since we last talked about it. Because you were trying to talk them up. Well, as Breach notes, 7 teams. One of those teams is getting in.
That's right.
I don't love Kirk Cousins in general, but you got to start with the defense. I think you could perhaps take a wide receiver here if, say, Garrett Wilson fell or something. But right,
I guess you could take a wide receiver, but they restructured Thielen, so you have Thielen, you have Jefferson. You kind of feel good about where you are at wide receiver.
Yeah,
they need defensive help.
And by the way, if there's an edge rusher here, they'd like to do that because Daniil Hunter could be traded too.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. You have the Eagles who have both picks 15 and 16 taking Drake London and Nakobe Dean. I like that combination. It feels like this is Colts gave up 16th overall for Carson Wentz. That's a stinger. Was this designed to sort of get Debo off your back by giving them 2 good picks after you'd been thrashing Carson Wentz and fighting with Debo for weeks on end?
No, I typically do some variation of linebacker. I used to have edge rusher, but they signed Hassan Reddick, so he's kind of back to Philly, Temple guy. Wide receiver, linebacker, and usually some defensive back. This time I haven't taken a safety with their 3rd first-round pick. He actually plays a lot in the slot. Dax Hill out of Michigan. He can play anywhere. Debo, you have any concerns with a Pac-10 wide receiver?
Looping in the Eagles. 3 picks in the top 19.
Yes, I have concerns with a Pac-12 wide receiver.
Pac-12, how come a Pac-10?
Nelson Aguilar, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Oh boy.
We can go back. He had one good moment, but Freddie Mitchell, if we go back like
Fred X.
18 years. Yes, there are concerns with Pac-12 wide receivers.
Yeah, Drake London, God, that place doesn't come back to bite me. He is no J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's awesome. Like he's legit in the running. And Brinson mentioned it for wide receiver 1. Play with Michael Pittman. I think he's actually better than Michael Pittman. So if you're okay with Michael Pittman, I think maybe Jalen Hurts will like Drake London.
I will note Deshaun Jackson worked out okay out of Cal.
There you go. Yeah. And he went to the worst Pac-12 football school.
What's the man? The Eagles make it really easy to discuss this section of the draft because you can just talk about them. What's your sort of ideal combination of positions that you're looking for, Devo?
Yeah, edge was on there where I had, Wilson had a Jabo there at a couple different times, and obviously that changes after recent news with him. So edge rusher probably taken off the board, but yeah, it's linebacker, secondary, and wide receiver. I am not someone that wants them to stay away from wide receiver just because they've used a pick on wide receivers the past 2 years. One worked out, one did not work out. If they only had one pick, wide receiver would not be one of the top 2 positions I'm targeting. But this is the first time in franchise history they have 3 picks in the first round. Use it on an offensive weapon to help Jalen Hurts and then solidify secondary and the linebacking core, which they never address in the draft or really in free agency or ever. So I like the way we're at right now. I don't know a ton about Daxton Hill, but
he's good.
Wilson likes him. I like him.
Yeah, he's really good, and he can play.
Nakobe Dean is fine to be a 3-down guy, right? Like that's
yeah.
That's
the thing is he is undersized even by sort of today's off-ball linebacker standards, but he's a mechanical engineer. He's like the brain, literally the brains of that defense in Georgia.
Is he sort of like a Roquan Smith, like Devin Bush type, like fly around, maybe like not quite.
Yeah, he's not as physical as Roquan. Yeah. He's a little smaller, but yeah, and he probably won't even time that well. He didn't run at the combine. He didn't run his pro day because I think there was a lingering ankle issue or something. I don't know what it was, but he might run a 4.7 or something. I don't care. Devin Lloyd ran a 4.75. I give zero craps about that. You watch him play, he's just awesome. And I feel the same way about Nakobe Dean, who I think weighed in at 229. He's 5'11", 225-ish, 229. But he's fantastic. He'll be good wherever he goes.
And I had, at one point I really was in because of Wilson on Tyler Lindenbaum, but now that Jason Kelce is re-upped for at least another year, I don't feel like you have to address offensive line in this draft. You can kind of push that ahead to next year and target some of these other positions of need.
Feels like the Eagles too could be a team that trades back, if people are trying to move up for quarterback prospects or just to you've got all of these picks here, you're willing to move, you're willing to move down from 15 because you've got 16 right there and there's a couple guys on your board that you like, you move down a couple of spots and pick up some picks.
I agree with that. Something that people have suggested that I'm totally against is moving up, packaging these picks that I think you worked hard for. Howie Roseman made good deals to get 3 picks within the span of 5 picks in the first round. You do not move up unless it's just this opportunity that you can't pass up, but there's not really a scenario I can see in which I want to move up.
I mean, maybe if there's a, I guess I could see if there, do you feel like the tackle position is how do you feel about the tackles with
Great.
Mailata and Dillard and
one of the best tackle combos in the league, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure. Lane Johnson's getting up there in age.
Yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't be surprising if Howie dipped his toe in the offensive line if they came out of this with an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman.
Well, they also have the 51st pick too, so they'll be back on the clock shortly. They're actually almost as good as the Texans. They have 5 of the first 83 picks and 3 first-rounders. So you could argue their haul is better than the Texans.
Knowing Howie, we might end up with a quarterback out of one of these 3 picks.
What would not be insane?
That would be awesome.
Is what if you just draft 3 Georgia defenders?
That would not be insane.
Like just be like, you know what? Georgia was maybe the best defense of all time. We're just going to take 3 Georgia defenders.
And I wouldn't take Lewis Seen, the safety out of Georgia in the first round, but he's like a top 50 guy probably. So if you took him at 19, it would surprise some folks. But it would be also within the realm of a possibility. That team's going to have 4 or 5 first rounders on it, just on defense.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a couple more, and then we're going to have to skedaddle for emergency podcast reasons.
Is it official?
It is reported, done deal, according to yep. Everybody's reporting.
There it is.
Yep.
Dang, you got it right. Atlanta gets a third back. All right, we don't have to talk about it now, but you were right about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think okay. So you have Tyler Linderbaum falling to the Cowboys, Chris Olave going to, oh yeah, let's talk about the Packers and their 2 picks, because you have them taking Chris Olave and Daniel Falafel. That's how it was. Yeah, that's what was going in my head there. I mean, that's just sort of shoring up the tackle position or shoring up the offensive line, and then I think they have to get a wide receiver, at least one wide receiver out of that.
I thought about whether I should draft two as well. I mean, because there's nothing left. And we talked about that last week after the Devontae Adams trade. So Chris Olave, who's no Devontae Adams, but he's a really good football player, played opposite Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, different type player, more of a route runner technician type guy, whereas Garrett Wilson reminds me a little bit more of Odell, as I said before. And then Falele, they're sort of mixed views on him. Some I've talked to scouts that like him as like a late day 1 guy, and some scouts like, yeah, he's so inconsistent. He's more like a late day 2 guy. So it just depends on whether you like him or not. He's 385-ish, and he hasn't been playing football very long. He's incredibly athletic, and I think he has a chance to be a good football player. And if you're bringing back Aaron Rodgers, you want to protect him, on some level, it makes some sense.
Okay, Treylon Burks to the Titans. You had mentioned that you're still okay giving him a wide receiver even after they traded for Robert Woods.
Yeah, Robert Woods towards ACL in November, so he'll be coming off of that. He should be healthy in time for training camp, but it still takes some time, as we've seen, for guys to get mentally right in terms of within the year comebacks from ACL. And Treylon Burks ran the 4.55 at the combine. I don't care. That actually may benefit a team down the draft board, that he will probably be there. He's part Juju Smith-Schuster, part A.J. Brown, part Anquan Bolden. And if you think those guys are good football players, then you should draft Treylon Burks, because he's in that mold.
By the way, the Packers could definitely go wide receiver here.
Yeah, I think there would be something that would make sense about that. I'll ask it again. I ask it every time. The last time they took a wide receiver, what year? In the first round?
1942.
Close, 2002.
Who was it? Who was it?
Javon Walker.
Oh, that's right. God, I forgot about Walker in the first round. And it would if they went Jameson Williams too with that ACL tear, like, this is value, because he's probably the first overall, or no, the first wide receiver taken if he's completely healthy. And if you're getting value, you think he can rehab, and then you pair him with like Olave, all of a sudden.
I had him going to Buffalo, Jameson Williams.
Yeah, that's fun. Jameson Williams and Josh Allen would be cooking with gas. All right, let's wrap up on this. You have the Lions at 32 taking Sam Howell. He sneaks into your first round as did you have Kenny Pickett falling out of the first round?
I did.
Wow. So the Lions go Sam Howell instead of Kenny Pickett, and the Panthers are salivating at the idea of Kenny Pickett in the second round.
Yeah. But the Panthers don't have a second round pick.
The Panthers are not salivating.
I had actually Kenny Pickett going to the Colts in the second round. Obviously, that could be moot with the Matt Ryan news, but Sam Howell reminds me a lot, a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of Matthew Stafford in terms of the gunslinger sort of thing. And, Detroit, there's that connection there, but he doesn't have to play right away, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it makes sense. It's their second first-round pick, and Jared Goff's going to be the guy for at least one more year. And then I think that offensive line in Detroit actually isn't terrible, and that was Sam Howell's, obviously, the big Achilles heel for him last year, running for his life every single snap in UNC.
Yep. Certainly a issue with that offensive line, but if you can give him sort of a year to kind of transition from Carolina.
I have a good feeling about what's his name, the head coach of the Lions too.
Dan Campbell?
Yeah, I feel like he's going to make something happen.
He might just do that. All right, we got to get out of here. We got to go do a Matt Ryan emergency podcast. So if you're hanging out in the chat, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes, maybe even with John Breach, although I'm not sure if he'll be joining us or not. Thanks for listening to the Mock Draft Monday show. Thanks for chatting. We will talk to you guys in